Well, good morning everyone. Welcome back to Esther's Eden. I am so excited for this video. I have so much information to share with you. So buckle up, grab your tea. I actually am not gonna drink tea for this video because I have so much to share and it's gonna get cold. That's just all there is to it. This video is something that has taken like 10 years to be able to put together, and I am so excited to share all of this with you guys. And so we're going to be doing my absolute top favorite vegetable varieties and some of my favorite flowers to grow as well. And this is by no means an exhaustive list. This is not something that everybody has to like or everyone has to grow. This is just my personal favorites, and excuse me. And I have some pretty strict criteria that I follow in order to choose my favorites. So I'm going to share with you how I decide my favorites, and I'm going to share with you some of the things that they have to be able to perform and do for me. And so then maybe that will help you guys come up with your own list of your favorites. So I think we're just gonna dive right into it. I'm gonna try to just go really slow. So pause the video, run and grab a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, grab a paper and a pen if you want to, or I am also gonna put every single one of these varieties down in the description box for you guys, so that you'll have it for later, or at least a quick reference. But this video is going to cover my top favorite things to grow and why they're my favorites, and just kind of run over all of those sort of details. And I might have little stories for each one as we go along. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this. Let's do this, right? Okay, so I'm gonna start with just telling you how I chose my absolute favorites. Like how did I pick them? So the first thing is they have to produce on this property. They have to actually grow well. If they are cold hardy, that is a plus. If they are a very short growing season variety, like 45 to 65 day plants, then that is like a bonus point for that thing. And whoops, hold on just a sec, the dog needs in. So also I like to grow things that taste really great. Like even if it outperforms another variety, if that other variety performs at least decently and it tastes great, then I'm probably gonna pick that one. And then also I do like to incorporate color into my garden, and also how do the pollinators respond to that variety is very, very important to me. So I like to call it stacking functions. So the more functions a plant has, the more likely I am to grow it again and again and again. And then I'm not gonna just judge a seed or a plant based on one growing season here, because our temperatures shift so violently from day to day, from year to year, even from like 5 minutes to 5 minutes. So I will give a plant or a seed a couple of different years to show me whether or not it's going to be worth growing or not. And then if it just like doesn't ever do very well, or we didn't really like it, then I'll move on to another one. So that's kind of the baseline for all of these plants, and hopefully that helps you guys to be able to sort of understand how I picked these and start making your own growing list. Because honestly, that's really why I'm making this video. It doesn't matter what I grow, it really matters what you grow on your farm, and how you can get your best garden and I will grow what works great for my farm, but it's not even going to be what's good for the person who grows a mile away from my farm, because our area, and I know there's so many areas like this throughout the United States, and even probably beyond the United States, but where microclimates change so much from mile to mile or neighbor to neighbor. And so I wanted to give you guys, of course, my favorites, because they will probably do well in a cold, short season for just about anybody, but and kind of give you a list to jump off of, and then yeah, help you from there. So let's just jump into my first couple. I'll tell you why I like them, and we're just gonna go through this. So hopefully this isn't gonna be a super crazy long video, but it might be a little long. So the first ones we're talking about are beets. All right, so we've got the golden beet, the early wonder beet, and the bull's blood beet. I'll give you a really quick description. Obviously this one is very pretty. It's yellow and golden. I love it because it adds just a pop of color. It's not a really strong beet flavor. And they cook a little faster than the red ones, I've kind of found. So, and they're beautiful, like an orangey color on the outside. They're so pretty to grow. They're so pretty in the garden, but then they're also really pretty when you can them and make like pickled beets or something. I just love them. And the tops of them have yellow stems with the green. And when I grow beets, I don't just grow beets for the actual beet, I grow them mostly for the tops, for the greens. And so that's kind of how I chose which beets that I like to grow. I've been growing the early wonder and the bull's blood for all of my gardening as an adult. So what, 10, 11 years or something, maybe more than that. I probably should recount. But anyway, a long time. Now the bull's blood I like because their tops again are a completely different color. They're super dark, and they just look really beautiful in a salad, especially mixed with something bright. It just gives a little bit of variety. And then they do grow really well here for me. And then I think if I could only choose one of these to grow, it would probably be the early wonder, although I've had a hard time getting a hold. Like you can see the seed packet's kind of old. I've had a hard time finding more seeds for it, so I may have to plant what I have and be very careful and try to save seeds from this one. If you have a source for the early wonder, let me know. Leave it down in the comments. I would love to hear if anyone else has a source. I'm going to be checking some other catalogs, because so this one has this beautiful green leaf with this bright pink ribbon that runs through the leaf, and it's just so beautiful. It's a quick grower, and I've just really enjoyed growing it. So yeah, that's my beets. All right, let's move on to sort of like the brassicas of choice here. Now again, this isn't all the seeds that I grow. I grow so many varieties, it would take forever. The video would be hours and hours long if I shared with you all of the things in my seed boxes. So I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna keep it really simple. A couple of different varieties, or even just one variety of the different vegetables and things that I like to grow. So, okay, hopefully the dishwasher in the background is not bothering you guys. It's a busy day, but I wanted to make sure I got this filmed so it can come right out so you guys can get started getting your seeds ordered, because that's one of the best times of the year, right? So, okay, let's get back into the brassicas. So kohlrabi is such an unusual vegetable. It was a vegetable that I started growing not because I had ever tasted it before. I just was trying different vegetables to see what we'd like, and we actually ended up really loving this. Not only is it just super fun to grow, the kids love growing it. It's really beautiful, the striking purple color against all the other green things, and but it grows really well. And this particular variety is a 60-day. You can get it to grow a little bit faster sometimes, depending on how small or big you want to harvest this bulb. So this actually grows above the soil. It's just such a fun, unique vegetable. And this, like I said, this variety has done very well for us. Another one that I like to grow is this cabbage. It's a mammoth red rock, and I do really well with cabbages here, and I don't actually know why, but they just, cabbage and broccoli actually, which is what I'm going to talk about next. The brassicas, they just seem to do very well on this particular property, and so I like to just embrace that. If it's going to do really well, I'd rather grow more of that and just learn to use more of it in our daily diet. And so anyway, I have found I actually prefer red sauerkraut. It has great flavor, plus it's so pretty. And in the wintertime, when you are stuck indoors more than you want to be, or you know, it's just white outside everywhere, it's just so nice to put a pop of color on your plate. And so I really enjoyed growing this. The other thing and the benefit about growing purple vegetables is I find the cabbage moths don't like them as much. They, for whatever reason, I know I looked this up before, this is in my head somewhere, but for whatever reason, those bugs don't seem to attack these as bad. And so while yes, I also grow green ones, I try to stagger the green and the purple so that it kind of confuses those pests a little bit. And I just have really good luck with this one. And then Waltham 29, and you're gonna see mostly Baker Creek seeds here. That's primarily the seed company that I use. However, I do have others. I've used Johnny's, I have a few of the Heirlooms Evermore seed company. And a lot of the seed companies do carry the same varieties. Just pick your favorite. It's okay. Like, don't get overwhelmed with like trying to order from every company. Okay, so Waltham 29 is my favorite. Broccoli, it just does really well. It does put off a singular head in the earlier summer sort of time. I mean, obviously that depends on when you plant it, but for me, generally, I get that early summer head, and then after that, it'll take a little break, and then it will start putting off tons and tons of these side shoots, and it's just so nice to have like a continual harvest of something that's just so good. So it does take up a lot of space, but this is my favorite one. Okay, let's talk about carrots. Now, there are so many different kinds of carrots, you guys. Like, oh my gosh, you could get lost in ordering carrot seeds, and they're all so amazing. But I just picked a few of our favorites here. To be honest, my kids, it's their favorite vegetable to grow. It's their favorite vegetable to eat. I have to be, so far I have never been able to grow too many carrots. So one of our favorite, pardon me if I butcher the name, is Juan Obtuse du Bois, and it's a carrot. It's a French version, and it is just like great flavor. One of our earliest carrots, and so pretty when you pull it out of the soil. There's lots of different varieties of reds. This one, we had another variety we really loved, but I couldn't get seeds anymore. So this atomic red has kind of taken over that space. I love it because there are little tiny red streaks or flecks in the green foliage, which is beautiful in the garden, but also has amazing flavor. Our absolute standby, if I could only grow one carrot, would definitely be the Danvers 126 half long. It grows great in our rocky soil here. I do, of course, double dig or just have raised beds or really extra amazing soft soil for the carrots to grow in. However, it seems that no matter what we do, we still always have rocks. So I love these. That's the tea. I'm gonna grab that and I'll be right back. I started out this video with no tea and I quickly started regretting it, so I'll make that cup in a second. But anyway, this variety is just one of our favorites. Great flavor, it produces pretty quickly, and it just does really well for us. Now, I did go ahead and throw in a variety that I have not tried yet. It must have gotten tucked between my seed packets or something. I forgot that I even bought it, but I have heard the best reviews in a short growing season in a cold climate with this Nantes Scarlet Carrot. This is from Heirloom Evermore. I'm gonna leave a link down in the description box for you guys. It's like an affiliate link But if you use my coupon code, which I'll leave down there, you can get 10% off your order at any time of the year. So I'll leave that down there for you guys if you're interested in growing this one. Again, I'm not sure how it's going to do. So I am excited to give this one a try this year. Let me know if you plan on growing it, and I'd love to hear how it goes for you, especially if you're in a short growing season like me. Okay, let's move on to cucumbers, and then I'm gonna pour my tea. If you need to take a break and go get your tea, we can totally do that. So, two favorite cucumbers. We love pickles and we love relish, and especially like really crunchy cucumbers to make that. Plus we love to fresh eat. So my favorite one for fresh eating is this Beet Alpha. It is like, I've heard people have issues where they like burp up cucumber, and I've heard the people who have those problems, or the ones who've tried my cucumbers, don't seem to have that issue with this variety. I don't personally have that problem with this, and so I can't really tell you, but if you are a person who has a problem with that, then maybe look into growing this one. It has a really thin skin, it grows, it can grow really long, and still stay tender and not get bitter, and it just grows really well. And then the pickling cucumber that I've done really well with is the Chicago pickling cucumber. It puts on so many cucumbers, it's crazy, especially if you keep on picking them, and I've just had really good success. Now, as a caveat I want to put out for the cucumbers is I do not plant them outside the greenhouse. They have to they really do best with babying and tender love and care throughout their entire process. They're kind of the garden divas, I guess you could say. And I've heard it said the best cucumbers in the world are grown in an 80-degree environment from seed all the way through until they're picked. And from my experience, I can tell that's probably true. We, of course, don't have the means to be able to do that here, though I do try to take good care of them. Last year, we were so sad we didn't get any cucumbers at all for all kinds of different reasons. Sometimes it's just not a good year for a particular vegetable, which is kind of why I started growing 2 years worth of as many things as I can, because then if I have a bad year of something, I always have a backup to get us through. So a couple years ago, I fortunately canned so many pickles, it's sort of seen us through. We didn't have our very favorite refrigerator pickles this year, so we are really, really looking forward to growing these and getting those fridge pickles this year. Okay, I will be back in just a minute. I'm gonna get that cup of tea and we will continue. We're gonna launch into my favorite greens next. I cannot wait to start planting stuff. How about you guys? Cheers. I think the only thing that I love more than my garden, or at least as much, is a good cup of tea. It's just so warm and cozy and so good this time of year, right? Okay. So, are you ready? Let's get into my favorite greens to grow. Now, greens here on the farm are probably my best thing to grow. They do very well. So far, I've never had a bad year. I grow so many different ones, and I'm only going to cover a couple today. So again, just remember, these are my absolute favorites. Like if I could only pick these seeds, this is what I would grow if I had to only choose a handful of things. And the reason I think I have such great success with greens is because I have, number one, grown so many different ones that I've been able to weed out the ones that don't work well. And number two, because I grow so many different ones, even if one green fails, I probably have 10 or 15 more that are going to take the place of that one that failed. Or sometimes it's going to be a certain type of greens, like sometimes you won't have a great lettuce year, sometimes you won't have a great brassica year, and greens can fall into different categories depending on which ones you're growing. And we count greens as anything that would be for a salad or a stir fry or, you know, cooked green or anything of those sorts. So I It's a very loose term for me, so just keep that in mind as we go. I'm actually going to start with ones that I've saved myself, and then we'll go from there. So this is a red Russian kale, I believe. So a friend gave me these seeds years and years ago. I planted them and they did so well that I decided to save the seeds, and I've been saving the seeds ever since. And the closest thing that I can come up with is a red Russian kale. I don't actually know what it was called, and that just happens sometimes, but when you find a plant that does very well, it's wise to save the seeds and continue growing the same one. So if you want to grow it, the reasons, then I would try to purchase something of a red Russian variety. So when I am looking at varieties, again, I said, you know, what things do bugs kind of leave alone? And I have found that if I plant the blue curled Scotch variety of kale or the scarlet kale, they're more of like a cooking kale. The bugs just go crazy over them, and the bugs really leave this one alone. So I'll plant a few of those other plants sort of as sacrifice kale, and then I still get to harvest a kale because they'll pretty much leave this one alone. I have had this particular variety self-sow through the garden for the last couple years. One year it was everywhere. It was out in the goat pen, it was in the chicken run, it was in the garden, it was just all over the place, and that was really fun. I've also had that with other different vegetables and different weeds, where it's just prolific from year to year. It just depends on what it's going to be. So it's kind of fun to see like what is going to be the predominant volunteer for the year. But this is the leftover seed from that, so I will be intentionally planting more so that I can continue harvesting from this. Another one that I've been growing for a very, very long time, actually since my very first garden as an adult, so, you know, over like 11 years or something, is this Bloomsdale long-standing spinach. I find that it doesn't bolt as quickly because our spring temperatures can go from just like cold to, oh, all of a sudden it's hot and 90 degrees, and then it can get cold again. So the spinach is one that's a little bit tricky with that. It does tend to bolt fast, but this variety seems to do better in that. What's in the packet is actually the same thing I have in my hand here. It's seed that I've saved myself. If you've never saved seeds, I highly encourage starting with spinach seeds. It's very easy. It's a great introduction, and it doesn't cross with anything other than itself, which is kind of nice. So anyway, this I love because depending on the kind of spring we have, this sort of kind of goes with the flow. One year we had such a wet spring. I mean, this has happened many times, but one particular year we had a really long cold spring. It lasted well into summer, and we were growing spinach the size of our face, and the kids were just walking around with, you know, spinach leaves around their face. It was so funny. But what was great about that is that the spinach tasted just as good as if it was the baby spinach. It was sweet, it wasn't bitter, and it wasn't chewy or anything like that. It was just so amazing. So this is my absolute favorite spinach variety. Okay, another green that I love growing is this Mizuna. I grow both the purple and the green. It is just a great variety of green to grow. It bulks up your salads, it adds a great color and sort of diversity, a different texture to your salads. Again, remember I said I like to grow things that are beautiful. I like my plate presentations to be pretty, because if you're gonna go through all of this hard work, you might as well enjoy the food that you're gonna eat. And when I was young, I hated salad. We never ate salad. Being of an English background, I don't really eat a lot of like not cooked foods, and so so we didn't really eat it a lot growing up. And then once we could eat it, it was like iceberg lettuce, which tasted like dirt to me, or bleach at worst. And And I just never liked salad, and so then I started trying out different varieties and versions of salads, and quickly found that I actually really do like salad. And so the more diversity I can put within mine, the more likely I am to eat it, and the more likely my kids are to eat it. So they really love coming out and picking all the fun different colors and all the things. Again, pardon the dishwasher in the background, I'm so sorry. Okay, so let's get, I also grow endive and arugula. Arugula does great. It gets very bitter very quick, so you have to pick it quickly, and it will bolt with the heat. But then the endive is sort of hit or miss. However, I really do like to grow it. So I threw it in here just as a try it and see what happens. And then the lettuce varieties. So I just went with two of my absolute favorites. Again, I plant so many different ones. It's hard to choose my favorite, but I picked these because I know I can rely on them no matter what's gonna happen. So this Tom Thumb is like a really teeny tiny head lettuce, and it's probably the closest thing to like a iceberg or romaine or something along those lines that you would get. So it's very crunchy, it's very sweet. It doesn't really get bitter. And my mom really enjoys this particular lettuce, which is why I threw it in there. She grows lettuce as well, and also eats at our house a lot. And so I like to have things on hand that she enjoys as well. So this is her definite all-time favorite. There is one drawback. I noticed that if you have a particularly wet spot, the bugs just go crazy over it. So you either have to pick it fast, use it as a sacrifice crop, or plant it somewhere that's going to be a little bit more dry, and give it some good spacing. But otherwise it does really well. My favorite is the Butter Crunch. It's just a good, quick growing lettuce. It has great flavor. It you can pick the leaves off of it very easily, and it's just a really easy lettuce to grow. One that I'm gonna throw in here for you to try is Marvel of Four Seasons. This is one again from the Heirlooms Evermore. I did try to plant this at the end of last year. However, it was a little bit too late and it got cold before I could harvest that lettuce, unfortunately. However, I hear that this is a great one if you want to garden year round, even in a cold climate. So anyway, if you've tried this one and you have had good success, please leave it in the comments. If you tried it and had terrible success, please leave that in the comments as well. I will be trying this one this year. I'm very excited to give it a shot and see what happens, and I will be continuing to attempt year-round gardening. I am just finding it very, very difficult. Our very coldest temperature we've hit so far is negative 22 degrees Fahrenheit. That is so cold. So of course, I lost everything in the hoop houses, definitely in the hoop houses. The greenhouse is yet to be determined. We'll wait until spring, but we're certainly not harvesting anything right now. Okay, my last green, you may or may not have ever heard of it. I started growing new things that I'd never heard of just to see how they would do, especially if they had a quick growing time on them, or a short season friendly version. And red Orach is one of them. I don't know if I pronounced that right or not, but I haven't really heard any other people really talk a ton about it. The reason I love to grow this is because I've only planted it twice. Planted it once in my big garden, and I planted it once in the kitchen garden just because I wanted more of it. And from then, it's just taken over and self-sown to its heart's content, and it grows so well here. I actually did save more seeds from this last year because I'm running low, and if something happens where I don't get that self-sowing happening, I want to be able to make sure that I can keep growing this particular plant. So it's a very quick, it's 40 to 60 days before you can harvest it. However, since it has self-sown in my garden, it's one of the first greens that pops up every spring, and we can't wait for it. It's bright red, it's so beautiful. Well, I guess this isn't bright red. It's more of a purpley red color. It's so beautiful. It looks so bright though when it's in the garden, and it's one of the only things growing. So you can use it in so many different ways, from from the first spring greens that go in a salad to later when it gets a little bit taller. You can grow it and use it like spinach and cook it if you want to. There's just so many things. And earlier in this video, I talked about stacking functions. This is one of those plants that you can stack functions with really well. And I will give you an example. So first we have spring greens. That's the very first thing. Second, it self-sows. Third, it's great for wildlife. The birds just go crazy over it when it does get those big seed stalks on it. And this plant gets really tall, like probably 5 to 6 feet tall. So the birds really love it. And then, and then also I do a lot of cut flower bouquets, and I find that this is like the seed pods of this plant are just so beautiful, and it can be like a pinky color or a green color or a little bit of a brown color. And it just looks so beautiful in a nice cut bouquet at sort of the end of the season when you got black-eyed Susans and sunflowers and stuff like that. So this pairs really, really well with that. So that is so many different functions for the same plant and for the entire season. There's not many plants that are like that. So this is why this is one of my absolute favorite things to grow. Have you grown it before? I would love to know. Again, leave it down in the comments. I am so interested to hear if you, especially from you guys, if you're growing things that are similar to me, or if you're growing things that are very different to me, or things that I've never even heard of maybe. I would just love to hear that. I love just hearing what other people are doing. It's just fascinating to me. Okay, that about wraps up our greens. We're gonna move into peppers next. Actually, before I get on to peppers, I'm gonna go with something a little bit more simple. Help you, if you need to, pause this video and take some notes, jot it down. Again, don't forget, I'm gonna leave all of this information down in the description box. Not all the stories or anything, just the my favorite varieties, just so that you have it. And I will be planting all of these things out through the year, as well as many other varieties of things. So stay tuned, and you can go back through my garden videos. I have tons of tours where we have all of this stuff on camera and film. I'm gonna throw some of that into this video for you guys as well. But I just wanted you to know some of my favorite things. I thought you would find it helpful. So on that front, I've got these great big packages. Now, I loved when Baker Creek did these pound kind of seed orders. They don't have us available to my knowledge anymore, which makes me so sad, but it's one of the reasons I started saving more of my own seeds. So these are my peas and my beans. I have been growing both of these varieties since the very beginning of gardening. I've tried lots of other ones, and so far these two are like hands down, they do well almost every single year. And I have been so happy with them for flavor, for production. Peas and beans are probably two of our most used staple crops, ones we can both fresh eat and also can, and that's a really big deal. So so I thought I'd share this with you. My first one is the tall telephone peas. These pods can get this big and produce the biggest, sweetest, amazing peas. I did a side-by-side trial quite a few years ago where I planted this one in another variety that was supposed to do better in a cold climate, and it did produce a lot faster, but the flavor, oh my gosh, this was so much sweeter. I couldn't even believe it. In fact, I was so convinced I don't even plant that other variety anymore. I only plant this one. These plants do grow massively tall. Like, we had some that grew 7 feet tall one year, and they were so tall they were flopping over my trellis, and but it was so amazing just picking all of these, and we were able to can enough peas that we're still eating those peas 2 years later. And so last year was a terrible year for peas. Unfortunately, we just had so much rain throughout the summer that the peas just didn't even really have much of a chance. They just didn't like all that rain that we got. So I'm hoping that this year is going to be an awesome year for pea harvest. And then we have the Blue Lake bush beans. These are the bush version. They also come in a pole version. I find we don't do very well with anything that climbs here. I don't know if most of the energy goes into the vine part of that plant. They're supposed to be way more productive in a vine rather than a bush. But unfortunately, that just has not been true on this farm. And I keep on trying to build little microclimates and try to figure that out. But so far, this bush bean has outproduced every other bean on this farm by far. So we will continue to grow the Blue Lake bush beans. Okay, you guys, we are more than halfway, right? I hope you're enjoying this. If you guys are enjoying this content, please give us a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to our channel. We'll have so much more garden information coming out this year. I know a lot of these first videos this year have just been sit down talk kind of videos, but there's not really a whole lot going on. We are buried deep in snow still, and there's a little bit of a lull between the holidays and when we start planting different things. And so sit down videos for now, but I hope that you're at least enjoying all the information. All right, you guys, this next plant is one of my favorite things to grow. We used to have a joke with our friends that I couldn't grow a pepper that didn't blow your face off with how hot it was. And later, of course, I have figured out why that was, and learned all the tricks and tips for growing peppers. We still grow between 20 and 30 pepper varieties, mostly because they are so beautiful. Peppers are so full of color and so full of life, and they just do really well. The plants are just beautiful, and they're just really fun to grow. So last year I did try to tone it down. I only grew a handful of varieties, and boy, did I miss all the other ones that I've ever grown. However, because of growing so many different pepper varieties, I have really narrowed it down to what actually produces a load of peppers. Now, we do primarily grow in the greenhouse or under hoop covers, like small little hoop tunnels, and that is our best way to get some kind of harvest. We have too short of a growing season here to really get a continued harvest. It's really one big one. Last year I did a trial, and here's the update on that. I'm sorry, I forgot to update because we had so much going on last year. I did a trial where I started peppers in January. According to this guy I found, and I wish I could remember what his channel name was, but I never did find it again, unfortunately. He grows in a completely different climate, but he started his pepper seeds it's like 2 months before I would normally have. And do you know what happened? It worked. Those pepper plants produced so many peppers last year, and we did have an extended season, which was great. It just stayed warm longer. However, it was only a week longer than our normal frost. So even though the temperatures stayed warm, we were still getting those cold nights. And those pepper plants, they produced so quickly. I was really excited. So I will be doing that again. We're going to be starting onions and peppers and pansies here this weekend, or very first part of next week, and I am so excited to get those going. I will take you along for that. Obviously that video won't come out for a little while, but for now, let's stick with what my favorite varieties are. First I need a drink though, right? Okay. So here they are. I have Hungarian hot wax, a Tam Jalapeno, cayenne long thin, an aneheim, and a, please, Cuban Nell is what I have started calling them. I am not great at pronouncing names. I do try though. Okay, I'm going to tell you real quick why I like these peppers. First of all, they produce a ton of peppers, which says a lot for our area. Hang on, the puppy needs to look back in. So also, as well as producing loads of peppers, these peppers I have found to be the most useful on our farm. So we love to eat pickled peppers on all kinds of foods, especially through the winter. They're very easy to make fridge pickles, which is the way that I found they stay the crunchiest, the longest. And then of course we also like to make cowboy candy, which is what the jalapenos are for. But more than that, we also use the cayenne pepper for making pepper powder and cayenne tincture, and we use that as a medicine to keep us healthy. It has so much vitamin C in it, it's crazy. And so, you know, that's another thing. And then these two peppers make a really great like fresh eating snacking pepper. The aneheim, of course, is a very familiar pepper. With most people are familiar with it. However, this Cubanelle pepper, I have had the most trouble with bell peppers. It doesn't seem to matter what I try to do, which varieties I grow. I've tried the shortest growing season ones. I just can never seem to get a bell pepper to grow. But this tastes and is very similar. It has a little bit thinner of a wall, but the flavor is so much better than a bell pepper. So the last time I grew these, which was a couple years ago, I vowed that I would just quit growing the things that just didn't do very well and go ahead and switch over to this Cubanelle pepper. So these are my top 5. Again, like I said, I grow way more than this, but these do so well for me. Okay, this was a hard call, you guys. I told you in one of my last videos about my radish growing, my rainbow radishes. So I love growing all of the different rainbow radishes. They're so pretty. They're one of the first vegetables we get to harvest. They're so fast. Some of them, you can harvest them in like 18 days. And then, you know, of course they go up from there. But that is like, it's an amazing thing to me. So choosing if I could only grow one for your guys' sake for this favorites video, I went ahead and picked the Saxa 2. I picked it because the flavor is great. It does grow in 18 days. It's so fast, and you really can just rely on it. It's just a good standby radish. It doesn't get too hot until the temperatures really climb up there consistently, and it just has such a nice radish flavor to mix within salads or however you like to eat them. So if I could only pick one of them, it would be the Saxa 2. Another fun vegetable, which is really from my English background, that's even why I decided to grow it, is this American purple top rutabaga. In other countries, it's also known as swede. In England, where my mom's from, that's what they call it. So it took me a little while to figure out what swede was and how to grow it. These guys do so well, though. It's amazing how big they can grow without splitting and without getting bug damage. If I had to choose between rutabagas and turnips, I would definitely go with the rutabaga. I've had better success with it. Anyway, it's just a really great root crop to grow, especially if you're trying to store things for the winter time. You can use this as animal fodder as well. And again, that's where the stacking of functions comes into play for me. What all can we do with the plant, and how many different ways can I use it? So this has been a really good success. I'm out of seeds. I'm gonna have to look through my seeds because I thought I ordered a new packet, but if not, I guess I'm gonna be placing another order. Okay, we're gonna talk about squash next. And squash is a very tricky subject. Okay, so the first thing is that we just have not really had a whole lot of success with squash on our farm. I did make some changes last year that absolutely made all the difference, even with the really late start that we got. And so I'm gonna try it again, and hopefully those tips are gonna work out for me again this year. I do have some varieties that I've been researching, and some that I've definitely grown under a hoop cover or in a greenhouse or whatever, and they've produced quite well. These are sort of my baseline if I couldn't grow anything else, I usually don't have success with other things. Last year was different. I did have way better success, like I said, but for so far, what I have been able to count on and really baby, and is in order to not take up too much extra space, because when you're talking space that's covered, it goes away really quickly. So I have grown this Black Beauty zucchini forever and ever. It's done really well, as well as this early crookneck squash. I like to grow them together because I find the texture of this one to be better and the flavor of this one. So then when I cook them, they go really well together. Of course, you can freeze both of them. They're more of a summer squash, and you can use them in so many different ways. So those two for sure. And then, while yes, these are a squash, they're also, you know, pumpkins, so label them however you want to. This New England sugar pie and Lady Godiva. These are, so this one is, if I could only grow one pumpkin, it would be for sure this one, because they're small. So you get a whole bunch of them. This last year we got like 18 pumpkins or something out of the greenhouse. They were amazing. And these are so sweet and so great for pies or baking or just whatever you want to do with them. This is definitely my favorite. But for saving seeds, if you could only grow one, then it would be this kind, which I'm sure there's more varieties of this, but this is a wholeless seed pumpkin. So there's no shell on the seeds, which if you are a pumpkin seed lover, that is definitely the variety to go. Now the flesh on this one is not so great. It's very stringy. The flavor is definitely not very sweet. And so that's why I picked both of them. To be honest, I would use the pumpkin from this one. I mixed them and it was okay. But I would just as soon feed the flesh to the pigs or the animals and just keep the seeds, and then save all of these and feed the animals the seeds from these. So excuse me. Anyway, I hope that helps kind of weed some things out. I am working on a list of very, very quick growing squash, winter squash varieties. I don't have enough information yet. Hopefully that video will come out like next year or something. I just need to see if changing some things up and giving these varieties a little bit of time to prove themselves. And then I'll have some more varieties to add to this list next year. Okay, I'm going to end with my favorite flowers to grow. If you are a gardener, then you know that I am missing a major plant group, and that is tomatoes. I am saving tomatoes for a totally separate video. It will come out, it will be the next video that comes out, and the reason I am saving it is because I have made so many changes on this farm to get a great tomato harvest, and there's so much information with that I want to just give it all to you in one great tomato video rather than letting it get lost in this video. So look forward to that. Be sure and stay tuned for that. If you turn on the notification bell, then you will be notified as soon as that video comes up, so that you guys can order the best varieties for you, and you can start implementing these things, especially if you're in a little bit of a warmer climate. You can start implementing these new tips and things that I've learned to be able to have great tomato growing success. Now, the success for me has only been 1 year, so I will put that out there, and I will give you full details in that tomato video coming up very soon. So let's go ahead and end this video with my top 5 flowers to grow, or top 4, I believe. Yep, top 4. Now, again, I chose these because I can stack functions. So I probably grow a couple of hundred different varieties of flowers and herbs. There is no way I could ever choose my top 4 of all of those. If I could only grow 4 or 5 at all, I don't think I could do it. I could, I just don't think I could help myself. So I went ahead and I narrowed it down for you guys based on how much space you would have, how many functions the plant has, and the likelihood that you guys are to grow these things. Some of the things that I like to grow are so crazy and off the wall. Not everyone likes to grow it. I am not only a avid gardener, but I'm also an herbalist, and so those cross each other's lines very frequently and easily. And so I picked these based on what would help your gardens, what you are more likely to be able to use easiest, and yeah, so let's just get into it, okay? You can't grow a vegetable garden or a flower garden without talking about sunflowers, right? I mean, so these are my own variety. They're accumulated from many, many different sunflowers over the years of planting. I've talked about how my sunflower garden came to be and how I've been able to save all of these seeds. Now, I just save these as insurance because I am very fortunate and blessed that my sunflowers come up year to year to year without me doing really any work other than a little bit of thinning. So every once in a while, I do like to throw in some new varieties to just continue keeping up healthy sunflowers and bring in biodiversity and that kind of thing. I'm not going to go into that. Don't worry. Stay with me. We won't make it complicated. And so anyway, sunflowers are great because even if you don't want to use them, they attract so many birds, which of course, if you attract birds to your garden, it does come with pros and cons to that. So keep that in mind. But for the most part, birds are predators of bugs, which means your garden could be a little bit healthier if you allow those birds in. So I grow these because it keeps the birds away from some of the other things that I don't want them to eat. And so they get their snacking pleasure. And I also, if we wanted to, we could save these seeds for our farm animals, and we can also save them for human consumption. We use sunflowers for cut flowers, of course, which, I mean, some of the great big ones, we don't really cut those down for bouquets, but some of the smaller ones with many, many heads on the plants, well, of course, those will make their way into our house. And then the stalks and everything, so you don't really need a whole lot of nutrients in your garden. So it's kind of a good starter crop. And then, but you end up with all of that stalk and all the leaves and everything to be able to add to your compost bin and really bulk that up. So I'm pretty happy with the sunflower as far as what it can offer the garden and what it can offer us, and how many different people and animals and how many different beings it can take care of. Oh, what should we talk about next? Let's talk about nasturtiums. So I did try to choose some flowers here that are great to draw in beneficials to your garden, things that will help pollinate better and distract pests from your garden, and then also things that you guys could use as well. So nasturtiums have sort of a peppery flavor. They're great because they're an edible flower. Actually, the entire plant is edible. You can eat the leaves and the flowers and the seed pods, and there's tons of recipes on Pinterest. It's amazing how many things you can do with this plant, but it is so beautiful. Last year I planted this tons and tons of nasturtiums within my squash patch, and I was so pleased with the result. Not only before those squash got huge, at least we had something beautiful to look at. It acts as a ground cover. This trailing mix can trail up to 12 feet long. Now, it doesn't generally do that here on my property. It did do that in my greenhouse, so the nasturtiums by the end of the season were just taking over everything. You can dry these flower petals and have your own homemade beautiful flower sprinkles. They look good on desserts and in salads and all kinds of things. They're just so pretty to grow, but they're also so beneficial. So I really, even though here in our climate they do take a little bit of extra work, I like to start them a little early in pots in the house. It is totally worth the extra work. I feel like if I really only had a couple of different flowers to grow, this would definitely make the cut. Let's talk about calendula. Okay, so calendula I chose because it's both a flower and an herb. Now, calendula is definitely in my top 10 list of herbs to grow. It is so easy to grow. It's amazing. It self-sows in the garden readily, and it produces massive amounts of flowers. It's amazing. You can keep on picking and picking and picking, and it will keep on producing and producing and producing. And so if you want an easy beginner herb, calendula is definitely a great one. It does help the immune system. It can help with skin issues, and it's just a really great herb. It's a great children's herb. It is kind of sticky when you pick it, so sometimes I either try to wear a pair of gloves or make sure I can just come in and wash my hands right away, because then your hands are very sticky with that resin. But that resin is where the medicine's at, so it's you know, it's a good thing. But another reason why I chose this is because it is such a draw to those pollinators. So if you plant it where you need that extra boost, like with squash, to pull those pollinators in, then calendula is your guy. Now this one is Orange King. These flowers get like this big, so you can also use them in a cut bouquet, and they're so amazing. I also grow another variety. It's very tiny flower. It's called Resina. And that's probably the one that I have really self-sowing everywhere. Now last year, because we put the raised bed garden in, I lost a lot of those volunteers that I had in previous years. So I didn't harvest a whole lot of the calendula this year. I did pick some of the flowers off and really just left them there to encourage seed production. And so I'm hoping this year we'll have lots and lots. But I did go ahead and order some more seeds so that I could go ahead and plant it really heavy and get those volunteers coming back to the garden. All right, the last flower and the last plant is Pansy Swiss Giants. I chose these because not only do they self-sow in our climate, but they are a very early spring green. They can handle the cold, they grow very quickly, and we get 2 crops without me doing anything. So all I did was start these one year, and now they just come up wherever they want to. If they're considered a weed, which is a plant that I don't want it growing there, I just pull it out. It's not a big deal. But these are one of the very first plants to come up and flower in the spring, so it adds a burst of color to our salads. They're edible, and they are just so fun. They come in so many different colors. This particular variety, the flowers can be about this big, and the kids just go crazy. We make 2 different things out of the pansies or the violets, and we make a jelly, which is like bright fuchsia color. It's beautiful. The kids love it. We use it for our special tea parties we have sometimes. And then we also make a lemonade with this. And of course, so then you have your own homemade pink lemonade, which is really fun, especially since we're not exactly in the citrus belt up here. We like to get that pretty pink color in our lemonade, but we'll add this and dandelions together, and we make a great healthy lemonade version. And healthy version of lemonade, and we just really enjoy growing these. It is my goal in my garden to be able to have as early of a pollinator friendly plants flowering to the very last plants for the pollinators. And so this sort of kicks off our season, and then of course we have things at the end of the season. These calendula being one of those at the end of the season. So it's kind of nice to be able to bookmark your garden season with things that you can use and things that make you happy and are so beautiful. So I know this has been packed full of information. I hope I didn't overwhelm you, but I hope that you were so excited to try some of these varieties. If you grow in a short season climate like I do, and you aren't sure what to start with, I hope that this gives you kind of a jumping point. Again, these plants will work for you if you're, no matter what growing climate you're in. You may have to plant them at different times of years. I hope today's video has been helpful for you guys. If you grow in a short season, I know it can be so overwhelming on how do you choose, what kind of varieties do you even look for, where do you even start, and I hope that this video has answered some of those questions for you. Again, if you were not able to take notes or this video was just so packed with information for you, I am leaving all of these varieties down in the description box. Remember, this is not all that I grow. This is just my absolute favorites. If I could only grow these, this is what I would be. If you have a smaller garden, perhaps these can kind of give you a jumping point. And I encourage you to take this list and start with some of these varieties and then go from there. Try out different things, see what works for you. Definitely find your favorite things to grow, but also I encourage you to branch out and grow something new, grow something you've never tried before, and perhaps it will become your new favorite in the future. Stay tuned for our tomato video that's going to be coming up. It's also going to be information packed. I'm going to try to give out as much information as I can so that you guys can have your best garden year yet. I don't know about you, but I am so excited for this growing season. I can't wait to take you along, and I will see you guys in the next video. Remember to keep learning and grow.